clothes can make you happy and they can make people around you happy, and it's a nice way to break the ice. So you just use them as tools to get you to the life that you want.
I'm Jill Angelo, host of the Geneve podcast series for women's health in midlife. I speak with the most forward-thinking experts in the health and wellness industries. These experts are helping women 40 plus feel confident and in control of their health in the most vibrant years of their lives. So join us on this journey of women's health. With changes in our bodies and outdated ideas of what's appropriate for women in midlife, dressing yourself after 40 can seem really challenging. We originally contacted Mellicia Marx, personal stylist and founder of Poplin Style Directions, for help on how to buy a better bra. We loved her so much, we asked her back. Listen in for her thoughts on how to express yourself with style. Mellicia, you're a personal stylist, and if anyone hasn't visited your website already, it's Poplin Style. Just explain what you do for your clients.
I have an amazing job. I am very fortunate. Basically what I do is I listen to a woman, and my goal is to help her express herself through her clothes and make sure that she's communicating what she wants to, and she is seen. That's really important to me, is really seeing her. So we mesh that with her budget, her body type, her lifestyle, and we put that all together into a strategy for her to help her get ready every day.
This thing that really pops out for me in what you say is you want a woman to be seen. Explain that a little bit more, because I think that's a really important point, especially as women age.
Right. That's really important to me. I think that's very true in midlife, but really kind of at all times in your life. It's kind of funny. I was thinking about this and thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and really thinking about, you're younger and you don't have the confidence as you're trying to kind of figure out your body and who you are and what's going on with the world. And then you kind of get a little bit more confidence, and it comes and goes, and then as things keep hitting you, and then at midlife something happens, and then you're kind of coming and going with the confidence, and it ends up being really challenging for someone to feel like they are able to communicate who they are and to have the world see them and hear them in a way, like you finish a conversation, you're like, were you even listening to me? You know what I mean? And so being able to have an impact on the conversation without even talking, I think is pretty awesome and powerful. And I find that the better you feel, the more confident you are in what you're saying.
I think the essence of fashion and our clothing and how we identify happens at really an early age. When you sit down with a woman for the first time, how do you start to talk about her relationship kind of with her appearance and her fashion as a result?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because I have this very in-depth consultation process. We talk for about an hour and I ask all these different questions. And it's funny because a lot of the times it will feel like I'm asking the same question, but I'm asking them in different ways because it brings up different answers for people. And what's also funny is sometimes I ask a question and they're like, and I'm like, it's okay if you don't have answers. But if I don't ask, I don't know what your answer is. So I find that it's pretty common for us to sort of have this aspirational view. And it could be, with my client base, it's not often a celebrity. Like if I ask them, what celebrity do you identify with? They're like, I don't know. I don't follow that. I don't, but it's often like someone in their office or like a friend that they have or a friendly acquaintance. And they're like, she always looks amazing. And I just want to look like that. But it's not necessarily the same clothes, but just sort of projecting the way she projects. So it's more kind of digging into those visuals to sort of get that sense. And you mentioned being younger and kind of having that, how you connect with fashion and really your presentation. And I do find that this doesn't come up in the initial conversations, but throughout the process, it's pretty clear it's very common, I guess I would say, that a lot of us have really internalized messages from someone in our life at some point. Because I will have women where I'm like, this is your body type. And they're like, no. I carry my weight here. And I'm like, no, you don't. And it's because their mom or their friend or their aunt or someone told them when they were 14 that that's where they carry their weight. And they just can't see themselves any differently. So I think it's really important also, I find, for us to sort of challenge the assumptions we have about ourselves and how we look in our bodies. But I also have found that that's a real life lesson in how powerful our words are when we're talking to someone else, and how these kind of offhand comments can really stick with people for years.
What do you believe has given you this discerning eye for what works or what doesn't work, or the look that a woman wants to achieve? And then how does that flow into the honest conversation that you have with the women that you work with?
I have noticed oftentimes when someone works in this industry, before I started being a stylist, I actually interviewed several women who had worked with stylists. And what did you like? And what didn't you like? And what was that experience? And so on and so forth. And a lot of times it was, I felt like I couldn't identify with her. And, I have kids and she came in these stilettos and that's not my life and all the things. And it was kind of like they were just really struggling in that first place. And I find that for me, I have been very fortunate my background is actually in philanthropy, and I've spent 20 years or more speaking in offices around the world, like all over the place. I worked in public sector, in private sector, in nonprofit. I've been everywhere. And that has ended up being an incredible strength for me with this job, because whenever I go meet someone and it's like, what do you do? Oh, and they just kind of, and I'm like, oh, I've been there. I know what that office culture is like. I know how people interface. It's not like I've been kind of hidden away in a retail environment and like am watching the latest trends, which is not a bad thing if someone is doing that. It's just a different need. So for my clients, I'm able to really kind of relate to them in that, and also kind of see what they see. But then additionally, I'm not projecting my style onto them. And I think that's really important. Like I tell them from the very beginning, I'm not trying to dress you like me. I don't dress all my clients like one another. So if you look on my site, you'll see that they have very different styles. And really what I'm trying to do is figure out who you are, what you want to project, and then help guide you and give you some filters so that you can do this on your own. I feel that providing filters makes a huge difference. So essentially, with every client, and women can do this at home, like you don't have to be a client of mine, I say, think of 3 words that when you walk into a room full of strangers, and it should be aspirational, so not what you look like now, not what people would say about you today, but when you're going to a room full of strangers, you look amazing, you love what you're wearing, you feel great, what kind of words would they use to describe your style? And so once you have those words, we have that plus what your body type is. And then we use those as filters every time that you go shopping by yourself, every time I do something for you, every time you look at something in your closet. And if you're trying to say, I'm confident and a little bit edgy and feminine, and you're like, okay, well, does this say that to you? And so most of the time, I'm not actually telling them, like, that doesn't say that. It's really like, does it say it to you? And then they're like, well, no. Okay, so do you want to have it? And then that's really up to them to decide. And sometimes they'll say, but I love it. And then I'll say, oh, you love it. Okay, well, let's talk about that. It's not edgy or, the things that you said. So are you telling me that those words actually aren't accurate and we want to add in something that's kind of boho because that's what I'm getting from this? Or is this like nostalgia or a comfort zone thing? So like, let's kind of look at that. So really it's all driven by the client. And I'm sort of just an impartial observer. So there's that about the process. Where do I get the discerning eye? I have just always been like this. I've always been the kind of person that, of course, I would know all my friends' shoe sizes and mail them shoes on a trip. Like, why wouldn't I do that? And of course, when I go to a family event, every person there has been dressed by me like, that's just like, who doesn't do that? And so sort of discovering that that's not a standard thing is really helpful.
It's a special talent. Yeah. Oh, why is it that women need help in finding the clothing that makes them feel the way they want to?
Well, I think there are several different scenarios. One that's very common and I think speaks to your readers too is your body has changed. So oftentimes it's when someone has had a baby or their weight has changed or in midlife. I have clients when they're going through menopause and all of a sudden they're super busty and they've never been before and they're just like kind of perplexed. Another thing that happens is when I've always felt very stylish. I always feel like I know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden I feel like I'm too old for those clothes, but I'm too young to wear these clothes and I don't know what to do. or I've become bored or uninspired. And then something that I see a lot because I'm based in Seattle, we have a very educated population. So a lot of the women here have, prided themselves on not caring about clothes and shoes and handbags. And it's like, I'm serious. I'm getting stuff done. I'm reading. I'm like doing all these things. And then all of a sudden one day they're sort of like, it turns out I do care about how I look. And I never wanted to tell anyone this before. But now I have the means and I need help. And I'm going to talk to my friends. And it turns out they don't know how to do it either because they're all in the same situation. So it ends up, I'll style one person and I end up doing their whole peps group or their whole team at work or their whole, like a whole group of them. And you see that it's actually a very common struggle, like more than you would guess. And it also is really fun for me because it shows that I don't dress them all the same. Because if you got 5 women working on the same team, you don't want to send them all in the same jacket. You know what I mean?
Oftentimes, sometimes women in midlife, so you talked about working with groups of women and their bodies are changing as they head into midlife or menopause. We often sometimes think about certain clothing isn't quote unquote proper for that age. How do you address that question? I bet you get it a lot, or that, how do you address that?
I do get it a lot because I get the words, people will say, I want to be edgy, confident, whatever. And then age appropriate comes up a lot. So they're like, so what does that mean to me? I think about this a lot. I have this amazing client and she is in her 60s and she works with rock musicians. She's a voice coach. And so as she gets older, like things change. And then she's like, but I'm working with like rock stars and I'm not this old person. And like, what do I do sort of thing? And so finding that kind of happy medium, there are some things that are just inappropriate and that maybe because of age and maybe not, but that's more inappropriate to the situation. But in general, I think the bigger problem is that women, I don't know if men do this, but I really see it with women, is that there's this whole kind of obsession with the age appropriateness. Am I too old for this? And it's like, we have a long way to go. And if you're too old at this age and you got another however many years, what are you going to wear then? So I think a lot about this. So I got my nose pierced a couple weeks ago with my nieces and nephews because I'm a good role model. But it was a really funny conversation that I had with someone after, and it was like, I'm 43 years old and I'm getting my nose pierced. And I think that the standard thought on that is maybe that's a little too old for something like that. And I'm like, well, I could be alive another 30, 40 years. And am I going to be 60 and be like, wow, I really wish I had done that? Kind of like looking back at, I wish I had another baby or something that, at some point you can't do it anymore. But I think a lot of times we think we're too old, or we think we're too heavy, or we think we're showing something we shouldn't be showing. And that's not really the case. It's all our own conversations. And I think something that's really can be helpful for an individual woman is to look back at photos of herself and try to think, especially if she keeps a journal or something, how she viewed herself at that time. And it's often very flawed. Like, oh, I'm a little heavy for that. And then you look back and like, wow, I looked amazing. So, embrace it.
It is. That's amazing how you look back at something and you look when you look at yourself, you think you look so much better than you did at the time. Or you say, what was I thinking with that hair, But you looked awesome. And at that time, you know what I mean? And that is I think that's a key point about style. And I have this conversation with people a lot and they're like, classic. I'm like, okay, there are looks that are, more classic and timeless, but is it so wrong to be of the era that you live in? And you may decide that you don't want to be, and that's a totally valid choice, but choose it, don't be afraid to embrace whatever it is. Well, it also sounds like a lot of your work is all about self-expression versus doing what you think others think you should be doing or doing what's quote unquote right or wrong. How do you break that mindset around being confident in your own self-expression and dressing that way versus dressing the way you think others think you should dress?
Right. I think that's important, but I think part of that too is also being aware of how other people interpret what you're wearing. So you can't just be totally like, well, I love this and who cares what people think? It's people are making judgments and that's happening. So you want to be in control of the judgments that they're making. And so if you have the power to influence someone in that way, like, why wouldn't you?
How about you as a professional? Have you ever run into a client that you just didn't feel you were a good fit for? Like, what kind of chemistry do you have to have with the women you work with?
And you know what's funny is that has only happened twice in all the years. But I do think it's really important that we connect with each other. You know what's really funny is I always tell people that the consultation is really just an hour where the woman is trying to decide if she can get naked in front of me. And once she's comfortable, then we move forward.
That's awesome.
That's all it is.
That's great. Well, your clients probably put so much trust in you. And so you have to have some sort of a relationship that trust can exist. And what are some specific things that you kind of tell women broadly they should keep in mind as they shop, especially if they're on a budget, or can you just kind of go through some of those?
Yes, of course. So to me, sort of the basis of everything I do is those style keywords and developing those for yourself, either with me or just by yourself. And then knowing your body type and how to dress for that body type. So once you have those keywords, then you can look at every time you walk in, and once you know how to dress your body type, every time you walk into a store, things are kind of filtered for you, because if it doesn't communicate any of those words and it's not flattering for your body, you don't even need to pick it up. You just keep on moving. And so that will make it so you have significantly fewer things that you try on in the first place. And that is going to make for a much better experience. Some other things that I do is I have people think of someone in their professional life that has an impact on their future and their career. So think of a very specific person, not just like somebody. And then I find that a lot of times people will be willing to do more, like to go to work or to go to wherever, but this is just at home. This is just this Saturday, whatever. And so I say, if you were just you got up late on a Sunday, you're running to the market to get milk, and you happen to run into that person wearing this, how would you feel? And if you're like, I feel great, then it's fine. So I think that's a great litmus test. I think it's also really helpful to find one piece in your closet that you really love and feel amazing in. And everything you buy needs to make you feel as good as that makes you feel. And so why would you buy something new that's not as great as something you already have?
That is a great mindset. Wow, especially on when you start to fall into this habit of, well, it's on sale, it's a really good deal. So let's talk about money and budget. Do you work with clients on a limited budget, or how do you help also your clients think about budget?
I definitely work with people on a budget of all levels, and it's actually really fun for me. And I tell people from the very beginning, I'm as comfortable at Forever 21 and H&M as I am at Barney's and beyond, and there's no judgment here. So what matters to me is that we're honest with each other, because I never want to send something that makes you feel like, oh God, I can't handle that, or I can't afford that. Because this experience should be fun and empowering and make you feel good. And if there's a moment when you start to not feel good, then we're not in a win. So we talk very openly about that. I also think that it's really important to, part of being seen is respecting your values. I think it's really important to respect who you are, and for me to respect who you are. So maybe you're someone who is really into minimalism. Maybe you don't believe in buying new things. Maybe you want to focus your money more on your kids' education, and you think that that's just more important with your money. That's great. There are ways to do that. So I have a lot of clients where we actually go thrift store shopping. We never go to a new store, and then I get the tailor to come over and we just transform things. And that can save a ton of money and make you feel amazing. I also think it's great to know if your weight fluctuates. If you know where it fluctuates, then to shop accordingly. So for instance, it's very common for women to be, I call it the triangle body shape, but similar to a pear, you carry your weight on the bottom. So if you carry your weight on the bottom and your weight goes up and down, that means that your jeans maybe won't fit next month, that fit now or throughout the month. And so don't spend all your money on something that is not going to fit in a few weeks. So think about how your body will change and invest your money in things that are going to work for that.
What if someone isn't local? Do you work with women that are not local?
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. And it's kind of this beautiful time that we are talking about all of this, because so what has happened to me over the years is that I feel like, I've discovered how many women really need this more than I think I even really anticipated in the beginning. And so I find that I've sort of maxed out where I can't get to all of the people, and then I have this big wait list, and then I feel badly because people are waiting and I want to help them. And it's kind of a whole thing. Also because as part of my brand, but also as me as a person, I believe very strongly in work-life balance, and I have a family and I do a ton of volunteer work. And so finding a way to integrate all those things means that I can't be working all of the time, regardless of how meaningful that is. So instead, I've shifted the business to have it go toward offering those resources to the masses as opposed to the one-on-one clients locally, which has made a big difference for me. So I do a lot on the blog. I have a really strong blog community, and same thing with my newsletter, so people can engage in that way. On Pinterest, I have different boards like for their body types and all that different stuff with new pieces going up all the time, so they could just shop those. And then I have books that are going to be coming out in the next couple of months, and there'll be a book on each body type and just this exhaustive explanation of how to dress your body type. So then once you're understanding what your keywords are, and then you know how to dress your body type, you have this the ability to sort of move forward on your own. But I've since the very beginning, I've worked really hard to sort of build a community, as opposed to just kind of having clients. I always tell them once a client, always a client sort of thing. So it's been a really nice for me, I think, and nice for them.
So you mentioned a couple of resources there. So how do people find your blog? And I think you also said the Pinterest page. Is it private, or what parts are private and what parts are public?
It's all public, and it's all poplinstyle.com is my website. So poplinstyle.com, and then you can get to everything from the website. So the Pinterest is Poplin Style at Pinterest also, and then the blog is on the website. So it's all really easy. And when people sign up in the first place for the newsletter, then they get 6 weeks of style tips that come directly to their inbox. So it kind of kicks you off with a lot of details on how to shop for shoes and bras, and these are the kind of things to like take care of, and all that kind of stuff.
I for one have gone out to look at your Instagram and everything, and it's beautiful. It's like a work of art, I think. And so your eye for fashion and the kinds of women that you're working with it's so apparent there. So, and I think, wow, sign up for the newsletter. You get 6 weeks of tips?
Yep, 6 weeks to start you off. And then I also send out the newsletter every week anyway. So, I mean, I try very much to be very respectful of people, so I'm not just sending them stuff all the time. We also are about to do a big launch to give away a $300 gift card for Universal Standard, which is one of my favorite brands. They do size 10 and up, and I love them. So I do a lot of giveaways to my readers.
Is there any question as we start to wind this down that I haven't asked you that you just think every woman should know, or you get a lot from the women that you work with around their fashion and their appearance and just projecting the kind of image that they want to project?
I think a big part of it is just, I know it's uncomfortable and sometimes it can be scary, but really just don't be afraid to even admit to yourself what you wish that you look like or you wish you were projecting, and then taking steps to get there. And I have a lot of online resources to help you get there. But I had this client of mine who's so beautiful. Her husband had purchased the package as a gift for her, and it took her 2 years to redeem the package. And so I bumped her ahead of the wait list. I'm like, well, you paid for it a long time ago, so here you go. So she's a doctor, and she was sort of in this weird, like, okay, when people get it as a gift, they often approach it a little bit differently. They're a little more tentative. Even if they want it, they kind of haven't gotten to the headspace to be able to say out loud, I want to do this, and it's something that is a struggle for me. So, we get to that place and we do the closet edit, and the closet edit can be a really emotional experience for people. And I often in the beginning, I don't think I realized like how intense that is for someone, because, you know, you form a bond with your clothes. You remember where you were when you bought them or how it made you feel, or, but oftentimes there's a lot of baggage there too. And you're, you know, putting things on to kind of hide yourself, or because you think it's appropriate, or because you're afraid when you visit your family and they're not going to approve. You know, there are all these things tied up in our clothes. So to go through that is pretty intense. And she was pretty resistant. She was great, but she was resistant, and which doesn't happen that often to me. And so I was kind of like, okay, you know, let's just kind of see how it goes. Everybody's personality is different. And then she sent me this beautiful email that night, and she said, you know, this was a really transformational day, and I appreciated your patience and, you know, all those kind of things. But then she said, I always tell my daughters to embrace the growth mindset. And she's like, and I realized that I need to do that with fashion and style, and I need to like be able to do that. But I think that, you know, women, especially professional women, we read all these things, you know, it's like, oh, like the growth mindset is like the buzzword right now. And if you have kids, that's something that's coming up. You know, there are all these things that we apply to all these other aspects of our lives. Like we're willing to put that time in with our relationships, or with our kids, or with our career, or with our house, and like ways we want to improve. And we're afraid to actually just like look in the mirror and say, like, what is it that I want, and how hard is it actually to get there?
Yeah. Well, or even, you know, if there's a piece of clothing that you've always wanted to get back into, you know, so many people keep those around as a motivator. How do you address that?
My general feeling is everything in your closet, it should fit right now. It should make you feel amazing. It should communicate what your style is, and it should be functional for your life. If it's not those things, it should not be in your closet. You should lay in bed, you should roll over, you should look at your closet, and it should be like a boutique curated just for you, and everything's color coordinated. It makes you so happy, and you just can't wait to put it on, and you know, and if you're not feeling that way, there are things in there that shouldn't be in there. Even if you only have 20 things, if they're all a success, you're going to feel a whole lot better each day. So the pieces that are too small, but you love them and they communicate your style, and this is like, you can't wait till someday to wear this again, that's fine. You put them all together and you put them somewhere else in your house that you don't see them, and that's your too small pile. And then you have the things that you love and they're amazing and you can't part with them, but they're too big. That's fine. You put them somewhere else in the house, and that's your too big pile. And let me just tell you, when your weight fluctuates and you're like, I feel like I could maybe fit into those, and you go shopping in your other closet and you find these too small things, it's a revelation. But if you find that you're never going in that closet, then after a while you just get rid of that box and you never look in it again. But so you don't want to have that conversation with yourself every day. Just like you don't ever want to wear something that is like digging into your waist, let's say, because that's probably where you carry your weight, which is why your jeans are digging in there, or your tights or whatever. And so all day long, every time that you adjust that, you're having this self-talk that's telling you, oh, I need to lose weight. Oh, these haven't worked out, or however your body has changed. You're not the problem. The clothes are the problem. Someone's job is to make clothes for you. If they didn't make the right clothes, they have failed. You have not failed. This is not on you. So you want to just be sure that you're only wearing things that make you feel good. And if something doesn't fit and it's digging into you, it's not making you feel good. And if you're looking in your closet every day and seeing something that makes you feel like you failed in some way, that needs to go. One thing I hear all the time is, I love that, like someone will go shopping and they'll say, oh my God, look at that dress, or look at that jumpsuit, or look at whatever, but I don't have anywhere to wear that. So I'm not going to, I feel very strongly about this, that you buy the dress to create the occasion. You do not buy the occasion, like have the occasion and go find the dress. So if you think this is amazing and it's some crazy formal gown or a cocktail dress or something that you have no reason, then you go home and you get on the internet and you find somewhere that you need to go. And if you let that drive your life, things are going to be so much more interesting. You're going to end up doing things that you never thought you would do and going to places you never thought you would go, just because of the clothing choices you've made. So it's another way to just not let fear hold you back and just embrace what you see. If you love it, do it, and find a place that you're going to feel comfortable wearing it. And also, if you're going to take any fashion risks, do them sort of in a safe space. Do them with someone you know is going to be supportive of you and say nice things to you, and don't start out on a journey going out of your comfort zone in a room full of people that you know are going to criticize you.
Or do it in an anonymous place. Like going to New York City, you can kind of reinvent yourself because you're in amongst a lot of strangers.
It's true. I have a client who they had moved here. They live downtown, and she's working from home remotely, which is very common because everybody is moving here. And I said, how's it going with the clothes? I'm like checking in, yada, yada. It's been a few weeks. She's like, I haven't really ended up wearing that many things. I'm just at home. And so, whatever. And I was like, no. And it's because they don't have any friends yet. What I told her, this is what you do. You put on those new Alexander Wang boots and you go and you just walk downtown for 15 minutes, and I guarantee you that 2 people will comment on them. And so then she calls me back. She's like, it worked. It happened. And I'm like, that's right. And then you're able to have interactions with people. Clothes can make you happy, and they can make people around you happy. And it's a nice way to break the ice. So you just use them as tools to get you to the life that you want.
That's great. Well, thank you, Mellicia. This has been fantastic. I walk away from this with just a different mental model about the way I think about my own fashion and what my fashion words are. And then if I believe what I have in my closet is really exemplifying that. So thank you. I took away so much from this personally, and I can't wait to sign up for the newsletter and get my 6 weeks of free style tips.
Thank you so much. It was nice talking with you.
Thanks again to Mellicia Marx for making time to talk to us. You can learn more about her and her business and style tips at her website at poplinstyle.com. That's poplinstyle.com. Next up, I had a fascinating 2-part conversation with neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Mosconi. She's also a nutritionist and associate director of the Alzheimer's Prevention Clinic at Weill Cornell Medical College in New York. She recently published a book titled Brain Food: The Surprising Science of Eating for Cognitive Power, where she actually explains what kinds of foods you can eat to prevent the onset of Alzheimer's. You'll want to hear this, so join me. I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to the Geneve podcast series. We welcome your feedback at geneve.com. That's GENNEVE.com. You can follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher, and you'll never miss an episode. The Geneve podcast series is produced by Shannon Perry, theme music by Smitty. And until next time, watch the Geneve website for new stories and offers all dedicated to women's midlife health.